Hello, how are you today? You've made it to Unit 3, Parallel and Perpendicular Lines. In this video, we'll focus on lines and angles. We really want to think about the type of angles formed by two lines in a transversal and also how to identify relationships between figures in space. Before we begin, I want to start you off with a picture. Because I just want you to notice when you're walking around in the morning, when you're out shopping with your friends or your family, angles and lines are always around you. So see if you can spot some. Our first vocabulary word is transversal. Now this is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at distinct points. So I have my line L and my line M. Now this is cut through by my transversal T. Now you can think of a transversal, think of the prefix trans. You have a transit, which takes you from one place to another. Any form of transportation moves you across from one point to another. And all it's doing is just cutting through two lines. Now let's try spotting some transversals. I'm going to take you back to that original picture, and I'm going to set you off with just two pairs of lines. Now if you look at this two sets of lines, there are some transversals that actually cut through them. You have one here, a second one, and for my second pair of lines I have 1, 2, and 3. So a pair of lines can actually have more than just one transversal going through. Moving on to our special angles, our first one is alternate interior angles. These are just non-adjacent interior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So what does that mean? Well, let me give you our lines cut through by our transversal, and I'll start you off with the angles it forms. So if you think about interior, I'm looking on the inside of my transversal, which is 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alternate means to just go in between. So my first one is my angles 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles, and angle 4 and 5. Our next angle pair is same side interior angles. These are just interior angles that lie on the same side of the transversal. So look in the inside of your transversal, see which one are lying on the same side of the line. So I have angle 3 and angle 5 being a pair, and angle 4 and angle 6 being my second pair of same side interior angles. Okay, so before we begin, let's identify some angle pairs. Here's a picture that I took. I'm going to set my line L and line M with my transversal T and my angles created by my transversal. We'll first take a look at alternate interior angles. We know they're on the inside, and they go back and forth. So we have angle 4 and 6, and also angle 3 and 5 being alternate interior angles. Now let's take a look at same side interior angles. I have my angle 4 and angle 5, and angle 3 and angle 6 being same side interior angles. Now moving on to our next one is corresponding angle. So this is the angles that lie on the same side of the transversal in corresponding positions. So this means that the angles are on the same side in exactly the same position. So here's my line L, line M cut through by my transversal T. So first I have angle 1 and angle 5. Notice that they're on the same side and they're both in the same position with both of the lines. I also have angle 2 and angle 6, angle 3 and angle 8, angle 4 and angle 7. So with my corresponding angles, I was able to have 4 different pairs. Next, I'll be focusing on alternate exterior angles. Exterior would be the opposite of interior. We're looking at the outside of the transversal on opposite sides. So I have my angles. I'm going to just focus on the exterior angles 1, 2, 8, and 7. Because they're alternate, our first one will be angle 1 and angle 7, and angle 2 and angle 8. So let's start by looking at another picture to identify some angle pairs. So here's my line cut through by a transversal and my angles created by my transversal. We'll focus on looking at corresponding angles and alternate exterior angles. So corresponding angles, I will give you 2 angle pairs. Let's see if you can come up with the other 2, and I'll check in class. So I know I have angle 4 and 7, and I also have angle 1 and 5 because again, they're on the same side in the exact same position. For alternate exterior angles, I have angle 2 and angle 8, And also, I have angle 1 and angle 7. Again, they're on the outside of my transversal in opposite positions. Okay, so we've made it to the examples. We're going to use a diagram to identify a pair of each type of angles. We're going to name 2 lines and the transversal that form each pair. So remember, the transversal has to cut through 2 lines. We're going to go through corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, same side interior angles, and alternate exterior angles. So before we begin with the corresponding angles, what is something that we can do to make it easier for us to view this picture, because I know there's a lot going on. I know I went corresponding first, so I know they have to be on the same side in corresponding positions. So do I see any of that? Let's get rid of some lines here. Okay, so if I took away some of the lines and angles, I see that my line E and B is cut through by my transversal K, so my corresponding angles are 7 and 9. Okay, bring back the diagram. Alternate interior angles. I'm looking for angles that are inside of the transversal, but on opposite sides. So let's get rid of some pictures, and I have my line K and J, and this time my transversal is I, which gives me angles 6 and 3. Now looking at same side interior angles, do you notice any angles that are on the same side? Well, I see angle 6 and angle 5. I see angle 2 and angle 3. Well, let's get rid of some. Angle 2 and 3 lie on the same side on lines E and I, and is cut through by my transversal J. Lastly, we have our alternate exterior angles. We know we're looking on the outer edge of my transversal. Which transversal? Let's see. It's my transversal K this time, cutting through lines E and B to give me angle 8 and 9. Then I'll leave you with the pictures I took of my lines cut through by transversals, because I want you to get in the habit of looking around where you are to see if you can spot any transversals yourself.